Let me introduce Christian McEwen. She's the co-producer and director of Tomboys, and she also is the co-editor of Joe's Girls, and both of those items will be for sale after our production, and you can contact Greenfield Community College if you need to get in touch afterwards if you'd like to get a copy of one of those items. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Christian, let her tell you a little bit about the film. We'll see the film, and then there'll be time for discussion afterwards. Christian.
First of all, thank you to Anne Wiley and all the venerable bodies who've sponsored this event. It's lovely to have it happen locally. I live in Guildford, so it's only half an hour drive, which is wonderful. I'm not going to tell you too much about the movie because, in a way, the movie tells about itself as it unrolls. But I will say that this is Grace Paley, whom some of you know, wonderful Jewish short story writer. She says we tell 40 stories a day. 40 stories a day. And a lot of those stories that we tell are not stories that are publicly recognized. The stories we read in the newspaper, the stories we hear on the radio, are not necessarily our stories. And one of the wonderful things about documentary film is that you have the opportunity to tell those untold stories, those private stories. I recently came back from the Colorado Springs Women's Film Festival, and all the movies were, in a sense, the stories that the public world does not validate, does not make public, does not ratify. And I don't know if you know this statistic, but it's one of those painful statistics, which is that girls in schools, they read 6 times as many biographies of men as of women, 3 times as many storybooks which have to do with boy characters as have to do with girl characters. Even the animal stories that little children read, the animals are more likely to be boy animals than girl animals. You have Winnie the Pooh, you don't have Winona the Pooh, you know. So one of the things that we're doing with this little film is bringing those girl stories, women's stories up into the foreground. And if they're encouraging and exhilarating, then one of the things that happens is that people start telling those stories to each other. So when you're watching it, I would ask you to think about the tomboy in yourself, in your own life, and maybe the tomboy kids that you know nowadays, and see if you can use the movie almost as an inspiration to tell your own tomboy story around the place, whether it's to the kids in your life or to your adult friends. One of the things about going to the Colorado Springs Festival was all these, what I would think of in my kind of right-on bohemian mode as sort of grown-up ladies, you know, grown-up ladies in lipstick and earrings and proper hairdos who would come up to me at the end and they would touch my arm and they'd say, I was a tomboy. And you could see that it had lit up that spirit in themselves, and they were remembering that wily, energetic little girl. And it's a lovely thing to bring that little girl back into the world and to experience her both as a child self and as herself in the women that we now are. So welcome to this movie. I'm going to be around at the end for taking questions and comments, and I hope you really enjoy it.
Got it.
When I was a child, I was what people called a tomboy. The word itself seemed magical to me. Fiery, disobedient, gloriously untidy. It meant climbing trees and catching fish with my hands, badgering my mother for short hair and dungarees. Half a lifetime later, nudging 40, I edited a book called Joe's Girls, Tomboy Tales of High Adventure. It was named for Jo March in Little Women. But Jo, like almost all literary tomboys, is tamed once she reaches adolescence. What would happen, I wondered, if you changed the plot? What did an adult tomboy look like? What kind of life might she invent for herself? I teamed up with filmmaker Julie Ackeret, and we set out to make a film which tracked tomboys through time. a film about the spirited girls and women you don't usually see on TV and in the movies. The word tomboy has been in existence for more than 400 years, which tells us that women and girls have been bucking the system for a good long time.
So if you want to be a lady, well then have a look at me. Folks line up for days, just a half-baked look-see. Take it from me, where you be as a lady indeed. If you want to be a lady, well then have a look at me. All these men looking at me, giving me the once over with a big old look-see. Carry the world by its knees, you keep the porch light burning bright. You sell yourself for nothing less than one grandstanding night. If you take it from me, well you'll be as a lady indeed. If you want to be a lady, well then have a look at me.
If I could say one thing to girls, I would say, listen to your own voice, pay attention to your own body. You have an inner compass that will tell you where's north. And find someone who can be with you. Don't be alone.
Still to this day, my best friends are boys. On weekends, we do everything together. We watch football together, we go scuba diving together.
I went to an art and music high school. I hung out with a group of kids and it was like we felt really good about being different. And we were different among each other as well. It wasn't like we are different from everybody else, but we were very accepting of each other's kind of quirkiness.
My main gift for my mom is support. She's been supporting me through everything that I do. If I ask her to buy something, she buys like 10 of them. She buys too much. Unless it's something unhealthy, then she'll buy like 0.1.
I have a 7-year-old niece and a 4-year-old nephew, and they were bouncing on the trampoline. And when my nephew was bouncing, he was getting a little crazy, and my brother-in-law just said, oh, let him be a boy. And I understood that totally. Yeah, let him be, is what he's saying. Let him be. But it was let him be a boy. And that's the message that the little girl's ears has to hear. What I would say to mothers raising little girls is just to really be aware of who they are and be sensitive to what their true nature is. Let them be whatever it is that they need to be, and they'll be just fine. They'll be great, actually.
Yeah, I'm really comfortable with myself right now. Back then, I was teased a little bit more just because who I was, I guess. But now I have so many friends that I probably couldn't even remember them all. Yeah, I really, really like who I am right now.
And don't try to be a copycat. Try to be yourself, and you will find that you are different from everyone else, and you must stay that way.
I set my mind to what I wanted to be and what I still want to be and what I want to accomplish in my life still, and just go for it. I'm a happy person. There's a lot of people out there that aren't doing what they want to do and that are unhappy because they don't think that society will accept them for it, or that they can't do it, or how will they get along. You'll get along. Find it in your heart and you'll get along. If that's what you really want to do, do it, because it'll make you happy. And when you're happy, nothing can touch you.
I'm gonna burst right out of this world. I won't do it alone.
We've got about 20 minutes. If people have questions or comments, I'd love to hear them. What did you make of this movie? What struck you? What would you like to remember from it?
Well, I'll ask the question that I know students had before, which was, how many hours of film do you take to make this kind of a film?
And the answer to that is somewhere between 16 and 20 hours of film, if not more. I mean, there are 4 main characters in this movie, ranging in age from 14 to, well, Granny D, who's Doris Haddock is now 94, as some of you will know. And for each of those people, we interviewed them 3 or 4 times. And then we had to get archival footage and background material. And there was quite a lot of stuff that fell on the ground in the course of editing the movie, which is one of the reasons we made the DVD, so that we could at least save some of the most wonderful things that we couldn't use.
Very emotional. Just watching. Just love seeing the validation of all the images of strength and expression, and just that reminder. It's, it's like it's new information for me necessarily as far as a new concept, but just all together in one place and just a real celebration.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even for me, and I've watched it a few times now, the news of the world is so painful that we kind of need some antidotes around. We need some optimistic stories, some energetic stories, and who can not be inspired by Granny D? Every time I hear that story of her husband died, her best friend died, and what she did with her grief, what she did with her desolation was to walk across the States for 3,200 miles for 14 months. It's astonishing. Anybody else? Moment, please.
I was just thinking that although Granny D is a little bit of an extreme case, that it often takes some kind of desolation to propel you into doing things that you've been told you can't do, or you can't do that, or you'll never be able to do that. Somehow, a desperation is a strengthening thing if you use it that way.
Yeah. What doesn't kill you make you stronger.
That's exactly right. But, and one hears that so often, but until it's an internalized thing, that strength isn't there, or the awareness of that strength isn't there. So this is kind of a celebration of, I get it, I can do it, Actually, my niece, who's 25, just became a firefighter in Virginia Beach, and I'm thinking this would be a really great Christmas present for her, because people kept saying,
Yes, indeed. Wow. It's terrific that she's doing that.
Yeah, my sister's actually a firefighter in Northampton also.
Oh,
like the only other woman
oh
firefighter.
boy. Okay. So she'll know. Tracy. Yeah.
It's nice to see.
Somebody else, please, at the back.
I was struck by the beauty and the joy and the affirmation too, but there was a sadness. Carol Gilligan mentioned the adolescent girls and what can happen and what does happen, and that was powerfully sad. I mean,
We had to make the decision to make the movie 28 minutes and not an hour, partly in order to get it into classes like this one. It sort of slips through the door more easily if it's shorter. And had we had the full hour, I would have gone at greater length into some of those complexities and difficulties. I mean, for lesbian girls, for gay young people in general, the suicide rates are terrifyingly much higher than for straight kids. The whole issue of where you seek support from is an important one. I mean, Gilligan mentions the power of just having an older woman in your life who can encourage you along. There are other statistics having to do with young people who are more involved in sports, who are more involved in arts projects, who write. All those things help protect them against the onslaught of the culture, which is very busy molding us into a rather narrow band of possibilities. So yeah, there's a whole nother story that could have been told or included. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, wouldn't. It took us 5 years to raise the money to make this one, and that wasn't always so easy. So I think it'll be a while before. I mean, right now we're just kind of putting this baby into the world. Just opened at the Northampton Film Festival on Halloween, so this is really very new for us to have it out. It's lovely to be able to show it. Please.
I noticed that all of the ladies in the film had poor teeth.
Oh.
Poor teeth alignment. Is there an issue there, or is it just the fact that they resisted getting braces until you started filming them for this movie? Because I noticed 2 or 3 had braces on at the time you were filming.
I don't. I mean that sort of came. That was a chance happening. I think in the case of Tracy, it's possible that money in class had something to do with not getting her teeth fixed. Jay, who's the African American, grew up in quite a richer family, and she has the braces, as you say. Nobody's mentioned that before. Thank you. Please.
I really appreciated the range of ages,
Mm-hmm.
just all the way from 15 up until showing that it doesn't stop no matter how old you are.
Yeah. Well, that was really my hope, both in the anthology I edited and in the movie, was to make the connection between the rebel girl and the activist woman, to say that there's a pathway, because often when you're just a young girl who's getting into trouble because you're too dirty or you've climbed the trees when you should be up, putting on your tidy dress or whatever the story is, you don't see the adults out in the world who model what you would like to become. So that energy sort of goes underground. So if that's the one thing that people carry away from it, that's what matters to me most in a way, is there's a pathway through for the 9-year-old, for the 15-year-old, right through to Granny D land, if we should be so lucky to live that long. She stood as a senator for New Hampshire at the election, and she got 33% of the votes. It's pretty wonderful, age 94, She said, "I promise I won't stand for a second term." Yeah, she's really terrific. Please.
Seeing the film a second time, I'm struck by the humor of all 4 of them, and I think that part of resistance is the use of humor.
I mean, that's a whole conversation, what's resistance composed of, and it goes back to the issue of, the arts and the sports and the body, and the friendship networks as well. Jay has a mother who's very supportive. Nancy Brooks Brody, the young artist, grew up in New York and had friends, she said, who were different among themselves as well as different from the average person on the street. And I think she therefore grew up in a very spacious world where there were lots of selves that she could imagine herself inhabiting. We didn't put it in the movie, but Nancy Brooks Brody's actually been a firefighter too. She was a firefighter on Mount St. Helens, of all places. And was out there for 3 years, and then came back to Brooklyn and has set up a life really as a freelance artist. Please.
It was implicit but not explicit, at least from my perspective, on how homophobia is used as a weapon of sexism.
Sure.
So, I mean, and I know it's very obvious, but you might, if you would speak to that just in terms of how it's baiting, to say if you're a tomboy and you don't identify as lesbian or gay, or even if you're questioning, to put you in your place is to call you a lesbian. And I think that that's, I think, really, really important as the way that homophobia is used as a weapon.
No, it's definitely, you get called lesy, or a young gay man get called faggot, or young, just a sort of sissy boy who's not even knows where he belongs, and it's used to corral it's used to patrol the perimeters of what's supposed to be okay. So it's fine to be a tomboy at 9, at 10, and 12. As you pass puberty, you keep on with that behavior. Suddenly you're a dyke, and you may or may not be, but the way it's used is very painful and powerful, and that's part of the whole suicidal issue as well, and the need for support systems and the need for some language for this. interestingly enough, when we showed this to groups of young school children, well, not young school children, but schoolgirls, as we were beginning to do the editing, they all thought tomboy equaled lesbian with that, you know, and we had to sort of undo that assumption, and we wanted to make it very clear that Tracy was in fact a straight woman and was going to get married. Granny Dee had had a husband. Jay at that stage was undecided. But the assumption was if you did boy-like things, immediately you moved into the category of lesbian, and then could in a way then be dismissed, which then takes away the full human power of ordinary quote-unquote girls. You know, you can't be all the selves you want to be because you'll be pushed back into behaving in the stereotypical fashion. Please.
I was actually very pleased that not all of the women were lesbians, because I feel as if it's important for girls to know that they can be who they are and fit into the conformity of heterosexuality. And I work with a mentoring program for 9 to 11-year-old girls, and we use art and activism as a tool for helping them to perceive themselves as being able to be who they are regardless of how it fits in. And I initially was concerned that if all the women had chosen a homosexual lifestyle, that some young girls watching this might not be able to feel that they could identify themselves as both a tomboy or a resistor or an activist and as a heterosexual. Yeah. So it was really a nice blending of those two issues, sexuality and conformity.
Well, that was a very clear decision on our part from the beginning. We wanted to see that the energy and courage of tomboyhood, if you will, could translate into a lot of different life paths. And we didn't want that knee-jerk assumption, baby tomboy equals adult lesbian, to be validated. We don't think it's true. It's one of the paths for sure. Please.
I also appreciated the age span. I took to heart the message that one could not be a tomboy. And I lived the non-tomboy life very well, even though I wanted it. So I'm really appreciative as I get to middle age and rethink where I've been and where I'm going, that maybe at 88, you know, maybe it won't take me to 88, maybe only 58, but that there's still that, you know, so I was very saddened that there are girls who get talked out of it. But I'm also hopeful that this said, it doesn't matter, even if you got talked out of it, you still have a chance.
Interestingly enough, when I was putting together the anthology, Jo's Girls, Tomboy Tales of High Adventure, one of the pieces somebody gave me was a piece called The Tomboy Returns. And it was by a woman on the West Coast who's now in her 50s. And she wrote very specifically about how she was a tomboy at 9, 10, 11, 12, and then how that identity got submerged as she went through teenage years and into college and got married and had children. And how now that she's in her early 50s, she's cut off her long blonde hair, and she's back in touch, as she says, as the crone. She's back in touch with this lively 9-year-old inside herself, and sort of talks to that 9-year-old and says, "What do you want to do?" You know, and it's literally called The Tomboy Returns. So you might want to take a look at that piece. It's quite a nice one.
Was Granny Dee a tomboy as a young girl, or did she grow into that?
Well, she talks about this business of wearing out her shoes, you know. Clearly, I think she was putting her in the tomboy category is a little bit of a stretch, because she grew up in quite an old-fashioned world where she was one of a group of girls. I mean, she only had sisters. She was clearly a resistor from the beginning, but she was also the sort of young girl who dreams a lot, who reads a lot of fairy stories. She talked to us of feeling as a young girl like a foundling, that how she ended up in this family's life, on this particular doorstep. So I think it's a wee bit of a stretch to call her a tomboy, but she was such a wonderful character that we kind of couldn't resist using her, really. And there she was, doing her thing at the time when the movie was being made. So we walked with her for a day and interviewed her, as you saw, a week before she arrived triumphant in Washington. This was 4 years ago now, February 2000. And there she was in that little van, you know, with her faded ribbon. And she went through 3 pairs of shoes and 2 pairs of boots crossing the country, 10 miles a day, 6 days a week for 14 months. You know, it's pretty extraordinary. So, please.
You had a clip in there about Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Is that the rest of her story is on the cutting room floor, or?
Oh, we
she a
just,
tomboy, or
yeah, I would say Eleanor Roosevelt was a tomboy, but we used it just to say, you know, a woman can move to that level of authority, and she was a change maker, so we wanted her there. I'm seeing that it's 5 of, and people are beginning to need to leave. Should we maybe call it a day? And if you want to talk to me up at the top, and if you're interested in buying these books or the DVDs, I do have them for sale. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really curious. Thank you.